taking over just the headlines, or is it taking over your job site? We're going to discuss that and more coming up on the ConTech Exec podcast right now. Everybody knows that these times are trying. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ConTech Exec podcast. I am your host, Robert Zimmerman. Thank you for being here with me. We're going to take about 30 minutes and we're going to talk about things. AI in construction is the topic of the day. It seems like it's the topic of every day. Now, quick headlines, right? We were talking about AI's in the headlines for everything. You can't research construction technology without it being right there at the top of the page. A few quick headlines here in stats. Alice Technologies is cutting estimating time. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you their webpage. Built Robotics is automating excavation. We're going to take a look at their webpage as well. I think one of the interesting things is that the AI market itself is projected to be at $22.7 billion by 2030. That's a very, very, very large number just in the AI portion. Now, in reality, there are some technology companies out there utilizing AI for, scheduling, resource allocation, site monitoring, but adoption is totally different from transformation, meaning, right, AI can transform, but it's going to need some guardrails. Is AI the technology that you've been waiting for in your construction company, or is it something you're going to be hesitant to develop or hesitant to use in the next 5 years? These are the questions that we have to ask, and these are real world scenarios where, a lot of times in safety areas, people's lives are at stake. Budgets are at stake, especially when you're talking about using estimating softwares and utilizing AI for estimating. So it has huge ramifications if used basically unchecked, but it has, big upsides as well if used properly, used as an assistant, a very, very smart assistant, I guess. So let's talk about some real success stories, real world people who are utilizing some AI technologies that have, practical applications. One of these would be Alice Technologies. Now, Alice Technologies is a estimating software. It's designed obviously to reduce man hours and then simulate, possible outcomes. Let's go take a look at their website real quick. On here, because I wanted to kind of show you, they're kind of comparing it to a Procore, which seems, okay. And so you get into this website and kind of see core capabilities of Alice. Generative construction scheduling, AI-powered optimization, resource and cost management, scenario analysis and comparison, reporting and analytics. And then, of course, Procore is, project management, construction financials, quality and safety, and field productivity. Now, for me, those are kind of two different things. And I think the reason why is because down here is what they're talking about is the target audience. The target audience, what Alice says about Procore, is small to large businesses with project management needs. What Alice is talking about, target audiences, is large-scale industrial and infrastructure project owners, EPC contractors, and capital project general contractors. Well, are those two different things? I don't know if Procore would disagree or not. It'd be great to get somebody on it to talk about that. But again, when you're talking about these large-scale infrastructure projects, those are a kind of a unique and different animal. There are folks that say, hey, these aren't anything to be trifled with, because the scale of these jobs, if they go over budget or over timeline, the amount of money spent is astronomical. in the billions of dollars in overages on some of these projects that go over. So these capital projects definitely need some oversight, and I do think that AI can help with that. Now, what we have also on here, so it's got online knowledge base, dedicated customer success manager, obviously tutorials. Of course, they have a pricing schedule here. Procore does a great job of what they do as well within the project management fields and construction financials. I was an early adopter of Procore back in the day before it is what it is today. So I know what it can do to track your productivity and help track your subcontractors and track your schedule. So it's a fantastic product as well. Let's go over, there's other products being used. So Zachary's using, I guess, Alice Technologies. And they're utilizing it for their scheduling and software. The implementation, I'm sure, is going to be slow in the rollout. But one project at a time, maybe 2 projects times, just checking it. But Zachary's are probably a good company for that because they've got some big build projects. When I was looking at the Zachary website, they were talking about using it on a road project here in Texas, and of course those are long-term, big projects spread out over a lot of area. Let's talk a little bit about robotics. I always make fun of robots because I just think they're a little goofy. And maybe it's just because I'm awkward and old school about it, and I don't need a robot to help me build something. But there are some things that robots can build, and I want to go to this Bild.AI website. It's actually Bild, which is, there's a different ones, but robots for the solar revolution. So this is kind of a cool little website. It's really, we make robots to transform how humans build. Today's leading solar contractors use our robots across the U.S. and Australia. So basically, they're talking about their pile driver here. So you can shake out of piles is a thing of the past. All right, so 224 piles, maximum payload of 34,000 pounds. It does some cool stuff. Obviously, working with another driver to drive these piles into the ground. They got a nice little video in here. It's got a little safety system involved in it. Pretty slick little system. I mean, obviously, you're driving piles or driving these into the ground for these solar systems. That's great, and it talks a bit more about automating excavating. I've seen in the past where they have excavators actually doing remote excavating with cameras on these big machines. So these are some wins that are actually happening out there in the field. I think it's interesting to kind of see that, how technology is really expanding its reach, not only one to keep humans safe, but do, fantastic, larger jobs, things that, it would take 10 people on site to do, but maybe it only takes 2 or 3 in a remote location somehow, getting the robots to do all the heavy lifting, right? Of course, drones and AI monitoring have been around for a while now, and it really has made a difference in some safety features. There are companies in the roofing industry, there are companies that are, developing businesses, a vertical business out of the roofing industry just from the software alone. Being able to inspect roofs, the safety factors there are immense. And then, of course, there's AI and estimating pre-construction, as we talked about, estimating, building. There's a product, Bild.AI. I want to show you that because I think this is kind of funny. But Bild.AI, basically, it's doing takeoffs from your blueprints. So understand your blueprints with AI. You can upload your plans in here. No back and forth for permitting. 95% model accurately. Upload your plans. They want you to get in there and see how it works. This is a terrible picture. I don't know why they put that in there, but I think it's kind of funny. And if you can't see it, you're listening to this as just a podcast. You're just listening on your way. I just, go to Bild.AI, which is Bild.AI, AI, and just kind of check out the picture. I think that's one of the founders in here. Kind of took a bad picture. Maybe they did it on purpose. But interesting product, right? If you are utilizing this technology, interesting product. But the thing is this: who's using the product? So I'm going to go back here. Who's using this product that is actually doing the estimating, and what do they know about estimating or takeoffs? Would they know if they missed something? Would they know if the print that they're utilizing, the uploaded plans, are the latest set? Would they know if there were changes being made? Would they know if they were complete? Does the AI tool inspect the plans themselves to say, hey, we're missing some detail here? Is it smart enough to understand that you've got a certain material that's in the product that you're trying to build, and that material, is it on the list? Do you need to provide a submittal for it? Is it something? Again, doesn't know if it's complete. I would think you need to have somebody running that system that would say, yes, this looks good. I've even checked over. You got to have both. You have to have AI that helps make things a little bit faster, but you also still have to have somebody that goes over it. And here's why. Because there are cautionary tales of what's happening with AI, and you see it all the time. And obviously, when you're in the spotlight, most folks are, I think it's Zach Bryan's song that says most people come to watch you fall. And I think that's true. People like to pick at, and even myself, I like to pick at, here's the problems with it. Just the other day, Replit AI incident. Basically, the AI agent that they had designed was recoding itself as it was working, even though it was told not to, according to the sources. Do not touch orders were in place accordingly, but the human oversight was missing because apparently it looked like maybe the human that was in charge of it was not a senior programmer, or didn't have the knowledge of what was going on, and so the agent acted in flawed logic and ended up destroying some databases and production databases. Apparently, these were live, and so these are things that well, if you're utilizing that and it's destroying that database, or it's behaving erratically, what do you do? Who's in charge of that? And how do you prevent that? Because again, it opens up brand new questions like, what if this was a job automation site? What if this was an excavator that somebody's remotely running, and there are people on the site, and then the excavator, maybe it disables one of its safety systems somehow, or it does something it's not supposed to do. How do you stop it? Who's in charge of it? Who's monitoring it? Again, these are all processes that are going to come into play. It's the same thing with estimating. If that estimator doesn't understand, what could be missing, or hasn't really looked over the plans and just dropped them into the system, well, how do we know? Right? We're taking big chances here too, because everything's scalable. If you're a small operator and you're working on small jobs, and I don't care if it's a $100,000 remodel or if it's a $500,000, restaurant build, or $1 million build, whatever that is, right? Your financials, your reputation, everything is wrapped around how well you do at one, estimating the delivery, two, making the delivery happen, and three, actually making a profit so you can do the next one. Because you never want to get into that boat of being behind on a job, both financially or by schedule, because then what happens is you end up always kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're always playing catch up, and it's hard to get out of that hole once you're into it. Certainly, you don't want to get in that hole if you're trying to utilize AI tools and it's missing something, right? So again, AI AI is a supplement. Um, and I hate to use AI. It's such a broad term because, you know, it's such a broad term to use, but it's kind of the term of the month kind of thing. It's the one that we use to describe anything construction technology. But we won't be able to ever allow agentic AI, at least in the near future, to make decisions without real context, without human interaction. So again, the discussion points are going to be for the next 5 to 10 years. Why don't these models think like humans? Well, they're not developed enough yet. And then there's the fallacy of over trusting smart systems. Okay, that has always been the case. When computers first came out, cash registers the cash register, they didn't put it in the computer right. It was a computer at the time, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with the computer," but it may have been human error at that time, right? Computers, they have a strict set of rules, and the output is determined by the input. And so AI, I don't see it as being any different, where the output that you're going to get from a certain AI model is going to be based on how good the input is, right? How well you describe the situation so it can help you solve the problems. So we always have to discuss the role of humans, like in the system loop. I don't know that we're ever going to be at the point, especially in construction, that humans can ever be out of the loop. So the next thing that you're going to have is you're also going to be talking to people. Sometimes these tools will be used out in the field, and you're going to be talking with people about, hey, I need you to use this system. We're going to put it in place, right? It's that change management thing. We're going to put this in place. And by the way, it's here to kind of do the job that you're already doing. But what I want to remind you is that I'm not trying to replace you. I'm just trying to give you a tool, right? Well, you'll see how well that's going to go over. And that kind of leads me into this whole guardrails and governance and getting it right. You're going to have some sort of environment separation for your new AI tools that you're going to use. So you're going to have to set up sandbox test areas. You're going to have a whole set of R&D, I think, on this, because I don't know that you're going to want it to be directly involved in live projects immediately. Probably going to have to set up an old production database that you can utilize to test the system to see how the outcomes are gonna fall with the AI product that you're trying to implement. And then that gets into a whole set of old data. Is it verifiable? Is it good data? Again, it goes back to that whole thing of input versus output. You input bad data, you're going to get bad data, bad results out. I think it's funny, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's kind of like that. You have to be smart from day one. You have to set it up and get it right from day one. Otherwise, you're just backtracking, starting over again, and the results will be very, very frustrating. Second issue here, as we roll into this age of AI, right, is the change management portion. And I touched on it just a few minutes ago about maybe rolling an AI product out to a field member, maybe a working foreman, maybe needing to utilize some sort of AI to research some contract details or something like that. If it misses something for some reason, or if it picks the wrong details to research, or limits the search somehow, and he's not getting all the information, even though he's trusting this to look through those documents, how does that affect him? How does that affect the outcome of the project? And so again, the human in the loop is going, well, look, I used the tool that you asked me to use, and then it's failed me. Why do I need this tool? The thing that happens when it comes to computers and data and results is, if it's flawed, it creates doubt. And amongst your field team members, and I'll say the salt of the earth, the folks that are out there grinding it out from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. As soon as you introduce that doubt and they doubt the product, it's going to be a real hard road to get them to ever trust it ever again. It's the way that we're built, because they don't have maybe the perspective to say, oh, I'm going to give it another shot because maybe it was something I did. I think it was one of the it's more black or white for them. I tried it, it didn't work. You're wasting my time. I don't want to do it again. That's going to be a hard road to get around if you don't get it right the first time. So these are the big things that have come about with utilizing the new technology, not just artificial intelligence, but any kind of new technology that may help, but ends up being a problem. And we all know that construction industry has been kind of a late adopter of technology. A lot of folks still using spreadsheets and siloed information, even in 2025. I think that's an interesting statistic. Another interesting statistic is that 70%, that's still a very huge number, 70% of implementations fail in software. And that's probably because your change management process is not in place. And you've got the wrong access control. Maybe the wrong people are trying to implement, or maybe they don't have enough knowledge to implement. Again, when you start talking about an AI that's helping out with an agentic AI, just estimating, right? Well, who has access to that estimating, software? And is it just your estimators? And if they do, what kind of experience do they have? Do they understand the software, or are they against the software? That's another thing we're going to run into as we kind of go down this road. Yes, I used your software. I didn't agree with it, so I changed some of the numbers. Are you okay with that? This is an estimator, right? He's going to setting up your budgets. Well, then what if those budgets are wrong? Who's at fault when you've got an AI system in place and you've also got an estimator that's been there doing it for 30 years and he says, no, I didn't agree with it. But it's still wrong. What happens then? So we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us when we start talking about these implementations, maybe things that we're not thinking about. And so we're trusting our human instincts to be better, to use tools. But then we're also trusting what we're calling artificial intelligence to make us better. But there's going to be conflict inside of that because we're in a whole different realm here. Maybe it's just because we don't really understand, especially at the field level, or even at the kind of project management level. At sometimes you don't really understand where that knowledge is coming from and what it's based in. So the future is a hybrid one, that is for sure. But it will be human led and AI augmented. Period. And I don't think it can ever go outside of that. I don't think it could ever be AI led and then human augmented. I think that's the wrong way to go about all of this. So how do we lead through the hype and get smart tech in the right places, right? How do we place our bets and say, okay, what's the best way to do this? How are we going to get the most ROI out of this, right? So we're going to be talking about adopting proven tools. And here on the ConTech Exec, I'm going to be going through several different tools and talking to several different vendors of the software. We'll be talking with other businesses and maybe utilizing that same software. And if you've got anybody in mind you want to hear from, I'll be happy to reach out to them. But we want to use products that have a clear return on investment. And I'm going to tell you right now, the clearest return on your investment for those of you who aren't using technology or getting ready to use technology, one of the biggest ones is going to be getting your data clean and getting it verifiable so that you can use it for your estimating, and you can use it for your takeoffs, because your past data, your historical data, is probably the most valuable thing that you have in order to teach your system, how you do things. And then you're going to prioritize use case with real business impact, meaning you're going to need to know what your neighbor's doing, maybe even what your competition is doing. We're going to have to communicate with one another, and that may be hard to do at some point. We may not be willing to share some of our successes, especially if we're seeing, big percentage results in margin, or things that are kind of putting people ahead of the pack, because you're going to see it. People are going to jump out ahead, and you're going to go, how are they doing that? Right? Well, it's time for you to really start getting investigative on these use cases, and figuring out how they're doing it, what they're using, maybe what their change management strategy was, how they're implementing the product. Again, we want to overcome that 70% number. We don't want to be one of those statistics that's in that 70 that failed on its software. We're going to be monitoring emerging tech. Obviously, there's a lot out there, but here on the ConTech Exec podcast, we're going to be looking into it as much as we can, to try to get enough information for you to kind of make better decisions, so you don't jump in blind to this is going to help, right? Just because the advertisement says so, and I know a lot of you don't do that. You try to do as much research, as much of your due diligence as you possibly can. But I think we always want to just keep in mind that the tech doesn't lead the solution. The people lead the solution, and I think that's going to overcome that statistic, where we put the right people in the right seat to lead us down a tech path. We don't put the right tech in place to lead us down a tech path, right? Because your company is unique, so you got to have the right people in place, and then the right tech. Okay, it's not the tech that's going to change things for you. It's not. Tech is there to be a useful tool, but your people, the people that you have in front of you, the right people, are going to be the ones that are going to lead the way, and finding those champions is going to be a big part of your process. So I want to know from you out there, if you've listened to this, I want to know, what's your biggest AI win so far, your biggest construction technology win so far? I'd love to, feature some real stories that you have out there. Again, I'm always looking for my next great guest. And we're going to be talking next week about digital twins. Next week, I'm going to be talking about it, and then as sooner or later we're gonna see some guests in here. I get those recordings finished, but until then, we've got to keep kind of building smarter and staying sharp on our people. And I think that's my big takeaway from this whole thing. As much as AI seems to be leading in all the headlines and how well it's going to help with the transformation, let's always remember the transformation is not adoption, right? It can transform the way that you do things, but you have to be willing, you have to have the right people to help you transform. Well, that's about all the time I've got for today. Thank you for joining the ConTech Exec podcast. I hope you guys check it out next week when I'm talking about digital twins. And if you have a guest in mind or want to be a guest, reach out to me. I'm easy to get to. But until next time, have a great week. Everybody knows that these times are trying.